Hello everyone, this is Candace Cordelia coming to you once again from my room for a chat with my video audio series in which I talk with different personalities within the wrestling community. The next interview that I am so happy to present to you is with professional wrestling manager, personality, director, and actor Dustin Wilson. Now Dustin was introduced to me from a past interviewee and friend of mine who is also a professional wrestler, Killian McMurphy. Killian and Dustin work together within the Delaware circuit, namely for shows for 1CW, DCW, and Totem Pro Wrestling School. Dustin and I talked about a number of things, of course, how the current COVID-19 pandemic has affected the wrestling community and the global community as a whole. But then we also got into one of my favorite topics, which is films, talking about Bong Joon-ho movies such as Parasite and Snowpiercer. We also talked about the role of a wrestling manager and how managers are looked at and perceived. So without further ado, here is my interview with Dustin Wilson on A Chat With. Please check it out, like, and subscribe.
It's really weird for me because I'm very much an in-person type of guy, and a lot of things I do, I like to do face-to-face. I feel like you get more of a connection that way, but like with this, it's like, oh, there's no other choice.
It is what it is. We're just adapting and doing what we have to do, but I hear you.
That's all you can do. That's all you can do.
Yeah. You just take it for what it is. And are you also calling from Delaware, or are you in the same spot as Killian?
I am in Delaware. We're good over here. Thankfully, I'm in a pretty good position, like financially and everything. I am with my family right now. I'm staying with them. I think the situation is only going to get worse, in my opinion, as the time goes on, because more people are going to get antsier, and there's going to be all these good news coming out, and then the cases are going to surge. Not to think in a negative way. It's just it's worrying, you know.
It is. It's human nature.
We gotta be hopeful. We gotta be hopeful. There in these times, especially how it's affected so many people's businesses and careers. You know, absolutely. I'm not trying to act like I was some big shot in the Delaware wrestling county, but you know, are you recording this?
Yes.
Okay, good, because I wanted to talk about this because I found this interesting, like, little tidbit, because a lot of guys in the business are getting affected on a pretty large scale. A lot of guys, in their work is that they travel and they go to these large social gatherings, and we work, you know, and that's all taken away. But then it's like, for guys like me, and I'm relatively new to the business. I've been in for about 2 years. I'm still training, as I feel a lot of people should. I feel like you should never stop training. And I feel like you, as a performer, you're always feeling like you're picking up steam, you know, and you're getting better and you're learning your craft and you're honing it. And then out of nowhere, things can happen, but this is just a whole nother level. This is like several months taking out of a person's career. And I hope it's just not damaging to a lot of people and a lot of guys that are newer to the business, you know, because this is only going to light a fire in me. But I worry for some of the other people.
I'm glad you brought this up as the first topic going into this interview, because essentially I wanted to touch base with different people, whether they're wrestlers or promoters, different facets of the wrestling industry, to kind of get their feedback on how this pandemic has affected them and affected people that they know, both personally and professionally. It's disconcerting. It's sad. It's disappointing. I mean, I'm an optimist. I'm a hopeful person, but on a realistic point of view, it's just going to be on a whole other level, I feel, coming out of this, to see where the wrestling industry stands.
I completely agree. I've had conversations with a couple of promoters that I know, and it is that kind of feeling. It's like, wow, I'm so disconnected from it right now, and that it's kind of their livelihood at some point, you know? They have these separate jobs, but that's kind of what they want to do. That's what they do almost every month. They put on these shows, and they have the people come in, and they take that money, and they put so much stake into it. And I can't imagine how difficult it is for, like, as I was saying, several months just being taken away from it.
It's a lot. And that's just talking about the promoters. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
Wrestlers, it's a whole other ballgame. As an athlete, this is what you do. You go to the gym, you make sure you eat well, you prep for these shows that you do on the weekends. Some shows happen during the week, depending on the promotion. And to even see that being taken away from friends of mine who, we're talking about people who, they've been on this trajectory, this progression for the past few months where they're really hitting things hard, going to shows every weekend, making a name for themselves, and then to have that taken away. I can only imagine it's a bit hard. I'm an interviewer. I'm not a wrestler. Even from my standpoint, I've been trying to do interviews and do things at home because I love it so much, and I feel as though I owe it to myself and owe it to the stories that I feel need to be told to do
you
this.
You need that creative outlet.
Right.
You need something to kind of let loose in these times when we're stuck at home with nothing else really to do. It's funny when you say that, talking about the wrestlers. I have several friends who, like, close personal friends. One of them, I'll give a shout out to him right now, Nelson Bauer. He's one of the best workers in Delaware, in my personal opinion. And me and him, we've been traveling the shows every single weekend, you know, and we felt this trajectory. And I'm not a worker, okay? I'm a manager, and it's even harder for someone like me to even get an acknowledgement by most promoters and most promotions. Not to talk any bad about them, but most of the times they're like, oh, it's a manager, you know. But I've been trying to get my work out there, and for a long time, every single week I was doing a show. I was doing a show with my friends, and then there was just this halt, like, as soon as this virus hit. And as you say, like, you need to tell the stories that need to be told, and this sudden lack of creativity, and it pains me to like just sit here and do nothing. And I'm not only a wrestler, I also am a filmmaker as well. And I was in the midst of a very, very personal, and I want to say big, but it is a little independent thing that me and my friend are working on. But it was a personal story, and we had to completely halt production when we were a couple films away from actually getting everything together.
Okay, so we have several things to hit. I've been also keeping up with how this pandemic is affecting Hollywood and the TV and film industry, which is a whole other bag. But I first want to go back to you being a manager. We rarely get to hear the side of the manager, but it seems like the role of the manager is a bit mired under some sort of mystery nowadays. We have so many amazing managers that we know in wrestling history. I've seen on social media people asking, well, where are the managers? We need more managers. And now with this pandemic, with everything seeming to have come to a halt, what does the manager do when something like this happens? Where do you go for your creative outlet?
Well, for me personally, I find it somewhat similar to how a lot of the wrestlers are feeling. And I think from my experiences talking to other workers and how they are feeling, it is that lack of creativity that only wrestling can bring, because wrestling is such an interesting art form. You know, it's some weird mixture of theater and physical martial arts. It's interesting, but for me, coming from a manager's perspective, to be completely honest, it was already hard to get some recognition. You know, it's already somewhat because, like, oh, you can't really. I can work, but that's not what I do. That's not my thing. I'm the promo guy. I can bump a little bit, but I'm the guy that likes to go in there and talk trash, get the heat for my work, for my guy. I come in, I get hit, and bada bing, bada boom, we go home. And to me, I, as a manager, always love being that extra little bit of sizzle to the steak, the little added piece to a match, because a lot of matches, you can have just one guy versus the other guy. But if he's got a little something extra there's something that the crowd can work off of. There's something that the guys can work off of. And it's always fun to have that responsibility as a manager. And it's kind of all gone right now.
Right.
My personal, I'm taking my creativity out in other ways. I'm trying to get into writing. I'm trying to write some stuff. I'm doing promos just on a bunch of guys that I know just for fun on my Facebook. Like I just did one on Killian recently for a promo contest for my school, which was a lot of fun. I was pretty mad that I was put up against Killian because he is a fantastic promo, and he dummied me.
Oh, so you didn't know what you were going into. Oh, for shame. You had no idea.
I do. He's the man, but I'm a little confident SOB, so I was like, oh, I can do it. And I felt like I did a pretty good promo, and then I see his, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he didn't have to come at me with that fire.
Now I have to see this. All right, it's on the docket. But see, what you're saying is exactly what I have been hearing from other promoters and people who are well respected in the industry, saying that, look, if you're out of work and you can't even get to a gym, you're sitting at home, work on your craft in ways that you can ideally do so, such as i.e. doing a promo. You can work out at home, work out from home. If you need to reevaluate where you are in your career, absolutely reevaluate where you need to be in your career. Make a list for yourself. Figure out where you want to be in a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. There are things that you can legitimately do. But I get it. There's a rush that comes from being at a show, that comes from performing, that you can't ideally do at home. You feel like you get into a ring, or even if you're backstage, or if you're around people and there's an energy in the air, you feed off of that. And if there's an audience as well, you feed off of the audience's energy, and whether it's cheers or boos, you get something from that. So
mostly boos for me personally. Not gonna lie, no, not many people like me.
That means you're doing your job.
Absolutely, Killian taught me proud.
There are some folks listening that might not have ever seen a show where you guys have performed at. If you don't mind talking about your stable and who you work with and the promotions that you've worked at in Delaware, or rather just in the Northeast and around the country.
Mostly in Delaware, you'll see me for DCW, Dynamite Championship Wrestling, for a stable called the Poliquin Firm. I'm in there with a bunch of very, very talented people. Love DCW. There's one CW. I'm in there with, I'm very biased when I say this, my favorite set of people in the business. It's we're the boys. It's me, Killian McMurphy, Nelson Bauer, Travis Banks, and A.K. Willis. 4 of the absolute best workers out there, and 1CW is very kind, very good, and Totem Pro Wrestling, I'll give a very big shout out because they're a very small startup, but they are my school. I support them very much. Just got a new building, and of course all this had to happen, but those are the 3 main places in Delaware that I work.
Oh, very nice. And how long have you been in the business for?
I've been in for 2 years now.
Oh, so you're still really fairly new, just as I am. Were you always involved in wrestling as a viewer and then just decided, you know what, I kind of can see myself being a wrestling manager? How did that start for you?
Well, when I started training for Mark Harrow and JJ Cruz at Totem Pro, I came in and I have a theater background that been classically trained in it, and they kind of took to that. And I'm also a pretty hefty dude, pretty big guy. I can bump a lot, but my mindset was I was thinking in my head when I was starting up, I was like, I don't know if I can work, but not a lot of guys are managers out there. There's not like any managers really in the independents, and I think that's something that wrestling is missing a lot of times. There's a lot of very good ones out there that I've met, and they're very talented, but I remember, because for a while I was ring announcing, because that's another thing I was doing, and one show, I remember the booker just came up to me and was like, you want to manage Nelson Bauer, who I've mentioned before? And I said, absolutely, I would. And we went out there, managed, and they were like, okay, you're going to be doing this from now on. And then from there, I've just been managing ever since, and I love it.
That's great. And you do make a good point as well, that for some reason, we just don't see a lot of managers on the indie scene. Do you have an idea why that possibly is?
Okay, this is going to sound a little rude, but this is how I feel personally. I think a lot of guys kind of want the spotlight in that sense of I want to be in the ring, I want to be working. And I'm not saying that in a bad sense, because there are times where I feel that way too, you know. But a lot of guys are like, I don't want to do that. I want to work. And a lot of guys, it just doesn't really pass through their heads like, hey, maybe I can make a really good manager.
That's very intriguing. And it's something that I've just kept an eye out on. I wonder if that will change, though. When this pandemic clears, I wonder if we're going to see a dearth of people who have found other skills during the pandemic that they think they could expand on. Or maybe I'm being very hopeful. I surely hope so, because I know a lot of people that they're taking this time and they're reworking, they're retooling themselves. And I think, now's the perfect time. We have a lot of alone time, so we can try and hone some other things, try and crack some different nuts in our heads, you know? Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. We talked about the managing side of things and things just halting. You mentioned also working in the film industry. As someone who works in independent film, where do you see the similarities working in independent film versus working in independent wrestling? And do you think that this pandemic has both of those projects in different ways?
When you're making a film, especially I feel like an independent film, a lot of the times, this goes with wrestling as well. A lot of people, they don't do it for the money. They do it for the artistic expression and the passion that they have for it. And that was very much the film that I'm working on with my good friend right now. And you go out there, you get your shots, you scene scout, you rent out the cameras, you travel to places. And the recent shoots that I've been doing for the film we've been traveling a lot, and we've been traveling across state lines, trying to get to other people's places. And a lot of the times, mostly for film, now it's, okay, we can't get a hold of the cast members now because they're all home. They don't want to leave. We can probably shoot the last few scenes that we need, but the issue is no one really wants to leave their house, which I completely understand. I was talking to my actor the other day, and I was like, look, man, you take whatever precautions that you feel you need to do. At this time, it is on hold. We will get it done when it's done. But it's just, and it sucks, because God, it was gonna be something. it was gonna be a lot of fun. And me and my good friend who is co-directing it and co-wrote it, well, he mostly wrote it with me, we're both in that creative slump right now where we can't do anything.
So you wouldn't be able to pick things back up production-wise once restrictions are lifted, or it's just completely due to timing, you couldn't do anything about it?
Just before the ban broke of, okay, you can only have this many set people in an area, me and him had just gotten done filming with Killian, actually. he's in the film. We had just gotten done filming a scene with him, and then we were like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? We had a discussion about it with a couple of the actors, and we were just like, look, once all this is over, we'll get it done, we'll get it out, and we'll make it as good as possible.
Well, I hope when things pick back up, you guys can forge ahead with it, because like you said, it's near and dear to your heart. Did you have any plans to go to Wrestlemania or any other wrestling shows before the pandemic hit?
Oh, God, no. I think I might have flirted with the idea of going to a show in Florida just to go, but it was a case of like, that's a trip for me right now.
I was thinking maybe you were going to go to perhaps work, because you stated that it's hard to even find work as a manager. I don't know how you actually pitch to other promoters or what that process is like.
It's a very interesting process. There are times where I will hit up promoters and just be like, hey, do you want to use me? And it will either be a yes or a no. Or there are times where, to be honest, Killian says, hey, use this guy. And he's like, all right.
Oh, how nice. That's
Yes,
so nice.
he's sticking out his neck for me a lot.
I'm wondering if it's easier, quote unquote, say if you already are affiliated with a wrestler or a stable as a manager, or if it's just
so much easier to be associated with someone who is in the business. And I'm thankful enough to be very close with a lot of very talented people that really get out there. And I'd say that all of my success is thankful to people like them who just say, hey, to the promoter, hey, you want to use this guy? And I'm like, yeah.
So are there any promotions that when everything has calmed down a bit that you would love to work for?
Oh, I'd love to work for Capital. I've been to a couple of the shows. Absolutely fantastic. Watching it made me feel like a wrestling fan again, which if you're in the business, it's very hard to do sometimes. Remember that?
I've had this conversation with other folks that I've interviewed in terms of what the world would look like post-pandemic, especially in the wrestling industry. From your perspective, how do you envision that? Do you feel as though we're going to walk into something where there's going to be a bunch of places that have dropped off and everyone's going to kind of have to start from scratch? Or do you think that as soon as we're able to get back into the ring or backstage or do what we love, folks are just going to be all over the place and just pick and choose wherever they want to go, and then it's going to be that's it?
You look at social media, and from a lot of times it's the fans, the people that go to these shows, and a lot of them are posting memes, and well, not just memes. They're talking about how they want to go to shows again. They miss it, and you talk to workers, and you talk to promoters, and you talk to other people who are involved, and they're itching to get back into it. So my hope is that once this is over, I foresee a surge in people going out there. I see a surge in more guys busting their ass. I see a surge in promoters willing to take risks. I see good things personally with wrestling, and I'm very optimistic with it.
You have to be. And it's not to say that life as we know it is not going to change from this. It already has. We've already entered into this brand new era that we don't know. We're just doing the best we can. We don't know how to fully navigate it yet, but we're learning and we're trying. And I feel with wrestling, as long as we still have that passion and that mindset that we're just going to work and we're just going to continue to do what we love and see where the opportunities are, it's going to be there regardless. Now, I can't speak for who's going to still be left standing, but I think that's the hard part about it, because as human beings, we want to be able to control the narrative and control how we want things to be, but we can't.
Personally, I feel like that's a lot of what I am feeling. I think the most hurtful thing about all this is the fact that I have lost control, over what little control that people have in their lives, and now it's like, okay, you can't even go outside. You can't even see your friends. You can't even work. You can see your family, you can see your dog, and you can go out for essential things, but that's it. And I think that mindset is what's hurting people a lot.
Do you find yourself thinking, well, okay, I'm going to do this better, or I'm going to not do this, or I'm going to retool this part of my life, irrespective of wrestling?
I'm pretty great. I have been taking this time to think and to recollect, because if I can open up, before this happened, I had an ACL tear when I was in the middle of a match just at my school, and that kind of set me back because I had a couple of dates lined up, and I already started having that feeling of that, oh my gosh, I can't control this, I can't control myself. And then once I started feeling better and my ACL was repaired, I started going to shows, I started banging out, and I remember it all headed up to me being in like a pretty big match with a very personal friend of mine at a show, and then I messed up my ACL again, and the feeling of losing control crept back into me, and I started to feel better. I started to get some more bookings. I started to be a pretty big part of these shows that I was traveling to. And then this hits, and it's hard to kind of bounce back, but I am desperately trying to think on the bright side at times, because it feels like my career, as short as I've been in the business, has already had a lot of bumps, but that is wrestling, and the only thing that I can do right now is make sure that my body is okay, make sure that my mind is okay, make sure that I'm still hungry, and make sure that I still want to be in this business. And I assure you that I very do much still want to be in this business.
I would love to know how you're spending your time, though, besides self-reflection and spending time with your family. And are you, because I talked to Killian about binging TV shows and video games. I didn't even know he was as big a gamer. I had no idea. And then we started talking about
He's not a gamer. He just plays Sonic Adventure 2. That's all he does. I've been watching a lot of films to kind of recollect. I just watched Goodfellas last night. What I've been trying to do, and this is silly and people cannot listen to me, but I personally recommend everyone do this. Don't just get your inspiration for your character in professional wrestling from other workers or even yourself. Look outside, look at television shows, look at films, look at even video games right now. And I've just been trying to watch things that I can enjoy and also take from. Like, I watched Goodfellas. I saw Parasite again. I really recommend that movie.
I love that movie.
That movie is beautiful.
Were you a fan of the director's work beforehand? Have you seen any of his other films, or was this the first film of his that you saw?
Snowpiercer is iffy, in my opinion. Just me. I don't know. I'm very much a film snob, and it's not that Snowpiercer is like a bad movie. It's just I thought that there are times where I was like, okay, I get what's happening, and I felt like the premise could have been better, but the director, he's outstanding. And Parasite, if I can gush about Parasite for a second, because it is just, oh my goodness, from top to bottom, it is a beautiful film, and everyone should see it. And the fact that it was able to break the language barrier for an American audience like it did, it made me so happy. And even I sit here and I'm like, I don't want to read subtitles. Why am I doing that? And I just hear all these great things about the film, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna watch it. And what the film does now is it's like, okay, well, this movie is amazing. What other amazing foreign films are there?
The first Bong Joon-ho movie I saw was The Host. I don't know if you saw that one. I highly recommend that one.
I have not seen that one. It is on my list, though.
Absolutely see it, because this movie is fantastic. And then that's when I saw Snowpiercer, and I get you on it. It's not, I don't think it's bad at all. The themes are very relevant still. I know they turned it into a TV series. I'm curious to see how
Ain't that weird?
Yeah, I'm probably going to watch it just to see how they're going to expand on that idea, because I don't think it's going to be a 23 episode series. I think it's either going to be 8 or 10, so it's a limited series deal.
They're talking about doing a mini-series of Parasite for like HBO or something, and it's going to be Americanized, which I'm not against, I suppose.
This is going to be a tangent, but this is why I love doing interviews, and you start with one idea and then you go to the other, and it's still it all relates. But I have an issue with this whole Americanization of certain things. For instance, I don't know if you ever watched Skins, which is this UK show that came out years ago. Fantastic, a show about teenagers in England, and it's to this day one of my favorite series ever. But they Americanized it, and when I first heard about it, I was like, oh gosh, because the thing about British culture, especially teenage British culture at the time that it was made, I did not think that they could Americanize it, because American teen culture is so different to British culture. So I was thinking, okay, if they're going to Americanize it, they're just going to, I mean, the UK version showed a lot of drugs and a lot of sex, and there are universal themes in it for sure, but American teen culture, you've seen shows like Euphoria on HBO or...
Great show. Show.
That's an awesome show. There's a certain American tinge to it. You know it's completely American, and it was originally American. So when Skins US came out, I gave it a chance. It didn't connect, and I don't even think it lasted past a season or two, if at that. And they did the same thing to In-Betweeners. I don't know if you ever heard of that UK show.
That's a very good show.
Loved it. The UK version was just so real. It made me think, oh, is this what it was like to be a teen in the UK?
It reminds me I think it was Community. Community did an episode. Have you ever seen Community? Fantastic show.
Oh, yeah.
There's the episode where they go to Comic-Con, like a Comic-Con-esque thing, and it's the Doctor Who parody. And they're trying to Americanize it, and they Americanize it by adding on all these like Americanization things, and it's like, oh god, it's such a perfect parody of it, if you ask me.
Hey, it ends up looking like a parody, and there's a way to Americanize shows that.
Well, the perfect example is Sherlock to Elementary, if you ask me. I think Elementary's garbage.
I've never watched Elementary. I've never felt a need to. That sounds horrible, but
it's so nothing. It's so nothing. And Sherlock to me, I think it's insanely good. I even like the last season that everyone seems to hate, but. And then I remember watching a couple episodes of Elementary, and the story is that I guess they wanted the rights to air Sherlock, and then BBC said no to that, and then so they were like, all right, we're just gonna make our own Sherlock, and then they made Elementary, and it's just no charm, no fantastic cinematography or writing or anything that Stephen Moffat is known for with his shows. It's just stupid.
Oh, see, I didn't know Elementary was a rip off of Sherlock. I thought it was its own standalone show. That's really interesting, but I'll probably never watch it. Never gonna watch it. Never. But yeah, the whole Americanization of shows and movies, it's going to continue to happen. It'll be very fascinating to see, going back to this pandemic that we're in, how TV and film, how they're going to adjust and how they're going to spend their money. Because I'm even seeing now they're taking movies that were supposed to come out in theaters and taking it straight to TV in different facets, which is smart. They still need to make money.
I think that is the most intelligent thing that these companies can do. I completely agree with the sentiment that this is going to completely change the way that those businesses work. I pray it works out well for a lot of them, but it's just in these times we don't even know what's going to happen,
That's very true. Everything has changed. A lot more people are also going to take a look at their accounting in a sense, where they're putting their money, how they're spending their money, how they're saving their money, because a lot of jobs have been lost. We're starting to see a great disparity that, in my opinion, it's always been there. It's just that now the lid has blown wide open for people to see exactly the haves between the have-nots, and to see these jobs, retail, working at grocery stores, working in construction, in the hospitals and schools. These are jobs that help keep the world moving. A lot of these people are put in a position where they still have to go to work. So we're looking at a sense of, what does it mean to be an essential worker? What does it mean to have an essential job? What is an essential job? And it puts things into that perspective as well. We're talking about wrestling. You have to put all of this into a bigger, grander perspective when we're talking about the world itself, and that wrestling is under an umbrella of entertainment and sports and athleticism. We can't do anything unless we even have the shoot job, because if we don't have the flow of money, where is the money coming and going if we can't get ourselves back afloat? So I think all of those realizations are hitting people now too, if they haven't before.
Thankfully, my business is my shoot job is still going on. It's still happening. So, but it's a terrifying time. I know so many friends and even family, and it makes me really upset to say it, that are completely out of a job and are completely broke, and they have the resources, and a lot of them thankfully are very good savers, but it's so scary, and I worry for the people in my life that are put in the position that they are, where they can't do anything. They can't work. They can't provide for themselves, really. And it's terrifying. But thankfully I'm not. Thankfully I'm good. I'm chilling.
This conversation is so great. And once again, thank you for being here. This is a new project. I'm used to doing things on camera, and I'm used to working for other people in this aspect. So this is an undertaking that I felt was the right time now for me to do, now that I have the time to do these calls and do these video interviews and audio and get other stories from people in a different way. What are some of the things that you would love to do when this is all over that you just may have even taken for granted, the simple things in life?
I want to take more chances. I want to do different things. I want to be able to release my film. I felt like I took a lot of things for granted, like going out with friends and seeing the world. And once all this is over, what I plan on doing is making an impact in the business with all the people that I love and care about, and having a fantastic time doing it.
I like that. Well, Dustin, that was all from me. Thank you once again. This was awesome. I'm really glad Killian gave me the Iggy to come. He was like, you need to talk with Dustin. He will be great. And I fully 100% agree. Is there anything else that you want to plug? Your social media, things that you have worked on in the past that you might want people to check out, whether it's on YouTube or any other platform? Feel free.
I want to thank you real quick for giving me the chance to talk and for giving me the platform to speak. I really do appreciate that, especially for me being so young in this. Please follow me on Twitter at Dustin McHale. Follow me on Facebook, Dustin Wilson. Instagram, Big Dust. Go to YouTube, type in Dustin Wilson. I'm sure you'll find some fantastic matches with the likes of Nelson Bauer, Killian McMurphy, A.K. Willis, Miles Millennium. Look up Interview with a Hoarder and Interview with a Hoarder follow-up, two absolutely fantastic films that me and my great friend Kyle Walls made. Check out his stuff as well. I'm very much a part of that. Look out for Interview with a Hoarder Part 3. That is coming in the pipeline hopefully soon. And just again, thank you for giving me the platform and giving me the chance to talk. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome, Dustin. Thank you. And thank you guys for listening. If you have any questions and you want to hear more interviews such as this, please feel free to subscribe, press like, check out other interviews that I've done in the past and will do in the future. And until